Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC Vegas 96. But before we do that, pay up. Pay up. Izzy by KO. Yeah, right. That's what 3-0 on dinner debt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to.
It's to death now. So if we get in a dinner bet, your side is fucking gone.
I know everybody should just bet against who I put in my dinner bets.
Or it means you do. I mean, I said that on the show last week, but Drink is
have to.
getting it done for the kid. Pretty solid night for me. We're gonna recap UFC 305 before we hop into the breakdown. Went up a little over 3 units. It was up and down. We started off hot with the Jesus Aguilar submission at plus 525. Actually hit all 3 of my money line bets. Can you believe that? I was on the show last week talking about how I'm not going to bet money lines anymore because I can't hit them. But I hit all 3, and they were all underdogs.
All dogs, yeah.
Walter Walker, Ricardo Amos, and DDP. So, yeah, good weekend in the profit again. Although the DFS streak of profit came to an end. 9 weeks in a row. Last week was the first time we were not profitable at DFS. It was bound to happen. Unfortunately, it came on the night that, would have been even sweeter to be cashing some DFS slips. But we lost money on DFS, but we did win some money on the card overall with the straight bets and the parlays. How'd it go for you?
Yeah, I ended up down on this card 6 units, but it's just because I went heavy on the last 2 fights because I was free rolling off of the PFL. PFL Friday, I had my biggest night in PFL history. I was up 7.83 units on the night. I only missed 1 play out of like 6 that I gave out. I mean, we absolutely crushed it. We hit some underdogs, hit some parlays. So on the weekend, I was up nearly 2 units. So it wasn't like I took a hit or anything. I just bet Izzy like an idiot, and I was confident in Steve Erceg too. But before that, man, I kind of crushed it. My first bet was Jesus Aguilar plus 3.5 on the spread. Got that one to hit. My next was Casey O'Neill money line for 2.5 units. Got that to hit. I had Kulabau. He had every chance in the book to finish the show, and he didn't. Man, he's on the no bet list forever. I mean, I can't believe he didn't win that fight. And I don't even know if he deserved to. Like, it was close. You could have given it to him because it looked like he won the fight based off everything that happened. But round by round, like, there's definitely a case he lost 2 rounds. And then I hit Walter Walker. That was nice. And then I hit Dan, the Hangman Hooker, for my biggest play, best play of the night, man. I had that read all week that, if he went in there and made it ugly and just got back to his feet, he was going to win the fight on damage and just marching forward. I mean, he had Gamrot tired like early in the fight. Gamrot towards the end of the fight was like, okay, I can't go to the wrestling anymore. I'm stuck on the feet with him. And he had good moments early in the 3rd round, but Dan just took over, man. I mean, there was nothing you could really do. Dan was not losing that fight when the 3rd round rolled around in Australia with the crowd just hyping him up, him laughing, smiling, having fun in the corner while Gamrot looks like he's on death's door.
Yeah.
You knew he was winning that fight. So. And then I lost on Erceg and Izzy to go down a little bit. But ultimately, like I said, the reads were there. We won more bets than we lost. Just, bad bankroll management.
Glad you brought up the PFL because we had Dana White Contender Series, we had PFL, and we had UFC. And I was profitable in all 3 on the week. So it was a great week, man. It wasn't like a big profit on Contender Series. It was like a little less than a unit. And then I went up like a little over unit. I think like a unit and a half on PFL, but profit on all 3 cards, and we got 3 cards this week as well. So Contender Series tomorrow, or I guess tonight if you're watching this on Tuesday when it gets posted. PFL on Friday, and then we got UFC. So another week with 3 MMA promotions going at it. We'll have bets on those. You jump in the Homo Fight Picks premium membership. That's where you're going to get the bets. We're going to go through, break down the 10 fights we got scheduled for UFC Vegas 96. We'll give you the breakdown and the pick, but if you want the bets, It's in the Home of Fight Picks premium membership. That link is down in the description. Without any further ado, we're going to hop into it with the fight of the year we got here. Kong Wang. Kong Wang coming in as a minus 770 favorite against Victoria Leonardo. You know, I don't think Leonardo should be UFC level, but she does have a UFC win, which is actually pretty crazy to think of. You know, she beat Mandy Bone back in the day, which is unbelievable, honestly, because Victoria Leonardo has not looked good at all in the UFC. I will cut her some slack. You got to cut her some slack. Her losses are just some good girls. Manon Fiorot, Melissa Gatto, and Natalia Silva. She got finished in all 3 of those fights, and she did not look like she belonged in there whatsoever. Taking on a debut in here, Kong Wang, which I don't really know too much about this girl. I looked her up a little bit. I watched a couple of her fights, and I guess she's like a boxing kickboxer who has a good amount of experience in kickboxing. Actually has a fight against Valentina Shevchenko that she won in kickboxing in 2015, which is pretty wild, but still young in her professional MMA career. And she's won all fights. She's got, 3 finishes coming off a submission win on road to the UFC. So, I mean, this looks like Kong Wang by absolute demolition to me, but, you know, it is a jump up in competition, and Leonardo's losses in the UFC are not very good, or they are respectable, I should say that. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think she does go in there and probably gets this thing done pretty easily. You look at Victoria Leonardo, she loses all of her fights by knockout. And now you're going to go in there with a girl who's got a lot of kickboxing experience, who has power, who's accurate. I think it's a tough uphill battle for Leonardo. I mean, it's hard to tell with some of these fighters coming over from like the Asia scene, like Kong Wang. A lot of her fights in, you know, a different kind of combat sports, and in MMA, you never know what you're going to get over there as far as level of competition. But, you know, she has a win over Wu Yanan, who has UFC experience, doesn't have UFC wins, but she, you know, she's fought in girls in the UFC before. But ultimately what I'm looking at here is if Victoria Leonardo can't get the takedowns, she's got a big negative striking differential. She gets pieced up on the feet, and you're throwing in there maybe not a high-level mixed martial artist yet, but a high-level striker, which I think is going to be your downfall. Like you said, I don't think the UFC has much use for Leonardo before. They're going to give this big, powerful striker who's fun to watch a chance. I think they're trying to set her up for a win. So this one's pretty easy for me. Kong Wang, minus 770, lock of the night.
Yeah,
just kidding.
Kong Wang, inside the distance is probably the way I'll play it if I want to have a bet on this. But I just look at Leonardo's record, and it's like I think she was set up to be a journeywoman. Like she's fought good girls, but she's losing to the good girls, and then she gets a chance on the Contender Series where she's a big underdog, and she wins. She gets a UFC contract, and then they're like, "Yeah, well, I mean, might have been a fluke." So you know, so I don't know. I mean, it's Mean Vicky is probably gonna get finished in this one. Give me Kong Wang.
But the scary part is though, like Leonardo, her losses, Manon Fiorot, Melissa Gatto, Natalia Silva. So you just never know. Like those are some high level fighters. Like Gatto is probably the least out of them, but Manon Fiorot knocking on the doorstep of a title. Natalia Silva looking like one of the best strikers in women's MMA. So you know, if Wang comes in here and is not up to par with her grappling defense, gets taken down a few times, takes some energy out of her, maybe Leonardo surprises some people. Highly doubt it, but it's just why you don't parlay these minus 770 favorites in women's MMA.
You're not parlayer.
Keep her off your card.
You're gonna get hit with that Kong Wang, man. You don't want that.
You don't want the Kong Wang.
Move on. I almost thought this was men's MMA based on the picture on the left, but this is women's MMA. And we got Josiane Nunes taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. And another great matchup here. We got women's bantamweight. Cavalcanti is the favorite. Josiane, the dog. Everybody knows the story on Mean Josie. Very short, big overhand lefts. And if she can't land those, it might be a long night. Cavalcanti picked up a win in her UFC debut against Zara Farn, which bottom of the barrel, but she made it look pretty easy. 30-27 decision. in my opinion, absolutely cruised through that one. So she's a favorite here. Are you touching it?
Oh, first of all, if you're watching this, I promise just wait another fight or two. This card gets better. For the UFC to start the card with these two fights is wild. But yeah, Cavalcanti looked good. She's technical. Her leg kicks looked really good against Zara Farn, who's like 6 foot tall. I thought in that fight that Zara Farn would make it difficult because of her length and her reach, and she just really didn't. The only good thing that she did have was pressure. Like she pushed Cavalcanti up against the cage, backed her up at least with the striking and tried to work from there. She just didn't have any success. But that's the one thing that just makes me a little hesitant to take Cavalcanti here, is because Josiane Nunes is a pressure fighter. She's gonna come forward no matter what you hit her with, but she's got 10 times the power that Zara Farn does. Zara Farn's clunky. She's slow. She doesn't hit very hard, where Josiane Nunes is going to push you back and just wing bombs at you, and sometimes she can land them. I do think if Cavalcanti, though, just stays focused, stays technical, she's going to be able to land the jab. She's going to land the leg kicks, the teep kicks, all of that stuff to keep Nunes off of her until Nunes kind of gets a little bit tired. Then Cavalcanti can go to work with the boxing. But it just makes me a little nervous because Nunes, yeah, she's like 4'11", but she's got that big overhand left hand that she hits girls with, and you just never know at this level. So Cavalcanti's the pick. Not real invested in this one.
Yeah, she has a long reach though, 67-inch reach, compared to her 5'2" frame, which is interesting because she's going to wing that overhand left, and it's going to go farther than you expect it to. I'll never forget that in Josiane Nunes against Bay Malecki, and just the absolute memes of her just spamming overhand lefts and knocking her out in the first round was crazy.
She does have a reach though, like
yeah,
67. She could tie her shoes standing straight up.
Pretty much, man. I mean, we're talking Brazilian. You know what I'm saying? Okay, like, we're talking that. All right, so I do tend to lean that side, just considering the circumstances. And I think Jacqueline Cavalcanti is a decent fighter, but Nunes has more professional MMA experience. She got that dog in her. She got that forward pressure. She probably got more knockout power. And I think Josiane Nunes is going to be my pick. This is one I got to watch more film on. To be honest, I haven't really watched a ton of film on any of these fights. I'm just going based on what I know about them, because we've got Contender Series. I had to watch a bunch of film on that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go with Nunes just as a pick here, because I think Cavalcanti hasn't seen this before, and it might just throw her off. Smaller cage too. When Nunes fought Zara Farn, it was in a big cage. And even though Nunes won that fight, she was eating a lot of shots just because Zara Farn was able to pump the jab out there, keep her at distance. But she's going to have to deal with the smaller cage here, and that forward pressure could probably go a long way. So I'll take Josiane Nunes. Oh, God, we're moving on to another great one here. Holy, we got Jose Medina taking on Zachary Reese. Zach Reese, minus 430. Jose Medina, the debut everyone's been waiting for since he fought on the Contender Series, got absolutely mollywopped by Gaji Yazilov, but still managed to get a contract. He's cutting down some weight, trimming up the body fat. He's going down to 185, and Zach Reese looks like he could be getting a layup here, but we've seen that before with Cody Brundage, and he fumbled that one. You think he can get it done?
Oh, I think Reese should win. I mean, yeah, he fumbled against Cody Brundage, but in his next fight, the big shot against the Cuban Missile Crisis, Julian Marquez, he's got power in his hands. He's 6'4". He's athletic, hits hard, and then he's got the jiu-jitsu too. If the fight goes there. I've never been a big Jose Medina guy. Contender Series, all of that. I think he just looks out of shape too when you see him in there. I think Zachary Reese is a guy who probably is going to have the better cardio. I think the reach advantage, the height, it's going to be hard to deal with for Medina to do what he really wants to do. And, even against a guy like Magomed Gajiasulov, this guy couldn't land anything. Like, I know Gajiasulov was spamming takedowns and landed 6 of them. He just wasn't, he was a little hesitant to throw. And whenever he would, he'd pay for it with the takedown. I think Zachary Reese has decent enough strength and grappling, wrestling that he could get the fight to the ground too. And the big difference between Zachary Reese and Gajiasulov is that Zachary Reese has a good jiu-jitsu game, has good submissions. And he's going to look for him a hell of a lot more than Gadjiasulov would. So, yeah, this one's simple for me. Zachary Reese should get the job done. But, if he plays around with him on the feet, I guess Jose Medina could land something big and hurt him. I think Zachary Reese is just well-rounded enough to take this fight wherever he wants it to go.
Yeah, it's pretty simple because obviously I think Zachary Reese is the better fighter. But number one, he keeps his chin in the air, very hittable. Number two, we still haven't seen him pass round one. Yeah. So we don't know what his cardio is going to look like in round 2 and 3. And Jose Medina, the only reason he's in the UFC is because he was able to take punishment and still keep coming forward. Like that's the only reason he's here. So if that's his best attribute, then I guess, maybe if he can make it to round 2 and 3, maybe he could take over and pull something off. But, I guess I got to go with Zachary Reese because I think he's the better fighter. But we're diving into some unknowns. If that clock hits 0 at the end of round 1, we don't know what Zachary Reese looks like. So very sketchy. I would not parlay Zachary Reese at minus 430. What's the point? Just take him round 1 or take him by finish or something like that. Because he's tough. He's moving down a weight class. He's took almost a year off. So I would assume he's been getting some better training in. It looks like he's training in Mexico, I believe. What's that camp in Mexico? In Tijuana?
Oh, with like Moreno in them?
Yeah, that fucking camp. What is it called? Where like Lupe Godinez trains.
Lobos gym?
I don't know.
Lobos?
It's in Tijuana, I think. But it's a good gym. Like some good fighters, some good coaches. So I would assume he's going to be improved here, down at a normal weight class. So there's a lot of unknowns, man. Probably one I'm not going to touch, but for the pick, it's Zachary Reese.
Is it Intram?
Yeah, Intram.
Okay.
Moving on, we got Vyacheslav Borschev taking on James Llontop. Llontop coming in as the underdog. Borschev comes back at minus 245. Llontop lost his UFC debut where he was a big favorite, gave up the rear naked choke, and that was it. Borschev coming off the submission loss to Chase Hooper, which still hurts for me because I had the KO, but our boy Matty would have cashed big on that KO. It should have been a KO.
Should have been
ground and pound. Keith Peterson just was not able to stop that fight for whatever reason, whether he had someone in his ear for not stopping it or whatever. It was a submission loss, but very easily could have been a TKO loss because he got drops and then just beat up on the ground. I mean, he's 1-3-1 in his last 5. Borschev is, and now he's a minus 245 favorite. There's no doubt in my mind that this guy is the better striker, better kickboxer, but he does have the grappling deficiencies, and his chin is a question. So there's a lot of questions on Borschev at minus 245. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's tough. First, if somebody didn't watch the Chase Hooper fight and they just look at the stats and they see Chase Hooper outlanded him 62-2 with only 1 takedown, yeah, that's crazy, man. But I don't know how much stock I put into him getting clipped by Chase Hooper. Obviously, it shouldn't have happened. Chase Hooper's a grappler, but I think he was so worried about the takedowns, he just had his hands down. Chase Hooper shot or threw that thing from the hip and caught him right on the button. With Llontop, you wouldn't think that Borshev's going to be out here worrying about the grappling too much. I mean, James Llontop is a guy who it wants to stand and bang too. He's got most of his wins by knockout. He's been submitted a couple of times. He's kind of got those same grappling deficiencies as we saw in his last fight against Chris Padilla, where he was taken down 3 times in that first round too before getting subbed. I think on the feet at range, Borschev obviously is the more clean striker. He's going to throw the better combinations, but Llontop marches forward and lands a big shot. You just never know, and it makes me nervous for betting on a minus 245 in Vyacheslav. A lot of what you said too. He's 1-3 in his last 4. Took some big damage against Nazim Sajikov. Took some damage, like big damage against Chase Hooper. Like this guy, I mean, what's his chin looking like after all of these, wars? Fighting guys like Mike Davis too, who's nasty with the ground and pound, and like this guy's just getting hit a lot lately. If he doesn't find the big knockout shot, I have a feeling he's going to be hurt at some point in this fight, and it's up to James Llontop to try to finish the show from that point. I wish Llontop had some more high level experience, and he's been in these situations where, let's say, he hurts him and he rushes in and tries to empty the gas tank, and he doesn't, and then we get to round 2, and he's just a sitting duck on the feet, because that's not where you want to be with Borschev. That's my concern for Llontop. But at these odds, I'm tempted to take the underdog and just hope he lands a big shot to put him out. Because, like I said, that damage is mounting up. Borshev's been dropped. He's been hurt. And Llontop does have some hands on him. So, yeah, I'm going to take the underdog, James Llontop, here. I think a lot of people are going to be on Borschev this week.
Are they? Like, I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of recency bias against him. So I don't know if people are overlooking him. But, at minus 245, it's like, why would I be confident in that? Like,
yeah.
Like he's getting dropped by Chase Hooper. You could say he's worried about the takedown too, but like still, you get hit by Chase Hooper, you go down. You're like, come on. I think his chin is a massive concern, considering he's been dropped his last 2 fights. He's took a beating in both of his last 2 fights too. It wasn't even like he gets dropped once and then gets back up to his feet and it's clean from there. Like he's getting beat up. So very concerning on the Borschev side. I mean, I think his kickboxing is unbelievable. Like the way he puts together combinations he's going to look so good against Llontop, because Llontop, he's very slow. He's kind of he's a little bit longer and he tries to put together combinations, but I think Borshev's just going to be so much faster, going to be able to put together everything so much quicker. But it's just the fact that, if one of them lands, what happens? He hasn't been knocked out, but I don't know, man. Like, I think in a striking battle, because I don't really see either guy wanting to grapple unless they're hurt. In a striking battle, I mean, the durability edge goes to Llontop from what we've seen, but he's not the better striker. So it's one that I'm struggling with. I will take Borschev just because for a pick, I guess, whatever it means, because I think he's the better striker. But the durability is a massive concern. The age is obviously in favor of Llontop as well, even though Borschev should be hitting his prime right now, but it doesn't really look like he's going to. Borshev's a pick, but with a lot of red flags, man. I probably will not bet on Borschev at all because I just can't bet on him considering his chin. But it's a more favorable matchup. He doesn't really have to worry about the takedowns in this one too much. Not that Llontop can't go to it, but yeah, it's a weird one. Should be a fun fight though. I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
I wonder if Llontop does just straight out the gate, just try to see what happens with the grappling. Because, I mean, what do you have to lose? If you want to stand at range, you're going to be getting outpointed, and then you're preying on that big shot to come at some point. And, obviously the path to victory to beat Borschev is to clip him or go for the wrestling. So we'll see. It's interesting.
We will see. Moving on, we got Dennis Buzukja coming in as the dog against Danny Silva. These guys look very similar.
Yeah, they do.
Beard and curly hair on top with the side shaved. Danny Silva comes in at minus 265 in his second UFC fight. He's coming off the win over Josh Kulabau, cashed as a dog for the kid. But now he's getting a little bit of overpriced, in my opinion, man. Like, this isn't like an easy fight against Buzukja. Not that Buzukja is anything too crazy, but he has skills. And he showed him in his last fight. Coming off a great performance. He's got some nice momentum coming into this one. Picked up his first UFC win. And it's a pretty close fight, in my opinion. But I think Danny Silva probably has a little bit better boxing, maybe a little bit more durable than Buzukja. So I'm interested to see what you got on this one. What do you got?
Yeah. I think, like you said, I think Danny Silva is being overpriced, and based off Dennis Buzukja's first two UFC fights. But against Sean Woodson, this guy came in on just like a week notice, had to cut a ton of weight, and then they showed like the behind the scenes footage leading up to the fight, like fight day and the day before. This guy like almost had to pull out of the fight and go to the hospital. The weight cut was so bad. So he goes in there against a good striker who's going to be ripping the body and just boxing you up. Like, yeah, that's what was always going to happen there. And then he gets fed Jamal Emmers, who has a ton of experience at this level, and he ends up finishing him with that right hand in the first round. A good bounce back against Connor Matthews, but it's a debuter. I think that's kind of what Dennis Buzukja needed and probably deserved from the get-go. He kind of got thrown into the deep end. But I think those losses too to high-level guys like that is something you can learn from and get better from. I mean, this guy is trained with the Marabs, Aljos, all those guys for a long time. I think he's got good coaching, got a good camp, and has good, I guess, training room experience. But Danny Silva just throws so much volume, dude. Like he's just constantly throwing something, landing hundreds of strikes per fight. The Kulabau split decision win doesn't age the best because we just saw how dumb Kulabau fights and how annoying it can be to be a Kulabau backer. But the win against Angel Pacheco, who's a very tough guy, who also throws a lot of volume and is going to give you everything you got, was a good win too. So I think if this thing stays on the feet, Dennis Buzukja is going to have to land the bigger shots because I think he's definitely going to eat a lot more than he's given out. But if Dennis Buzukja can mix in the grappling and the wrestling here, I think he has a shot. It's just Danny Silva is very well rounded. It's going to be easier said than done. So I do think this line is very wide. If you're betting on it, I think it's dog or pass, especially plus 200. I think that's great value. But this is a tough fight to break down and to pick. So I don't know. Fuck it. Give me the dog. I'll take Dennis Buzukja.
Yeah, I think Danny Silva should probably be like minus 160 here.
Yeah.
Like, maybe minus 180 at the absolute max. So yeah, value on Buzukja in my eyes, but that doesn't mean I don't think he's gonna win necessarily. I probably think Danny Silva pulls off a victory here, but when you're betting, you're not exactly trying to pick who wins. You're just trying to see value and see how it plays out. But for a pick, I'll take Danny Silva, but Buzukja definitely I think getting overlooked in this one. And I don't really put too much into his first two UFC losses, in my opinion. And he looked good in his last one, lower level competition than his first two UFC fights. But Danny Silva hasn't seen anybody too crazy. It's Josh Kulabau, who's now lost 3 in a row. And we'll see, But I'll take Danny Silva for a pick.
Here's my last thing. Pacheco got pieced up by Kalen Logren. Oh man! And if you watch the Jake Hadley fight, like that's not a great fight for Pacheco. And then Kulabau, but I think Dennis Buzukja hits decent amount harder than both those guys. And when Dennis starts pouring it on, he's got some good striking and he's powerful. He's a strong dude. So it'll be interesting to see how Danny Silva takes shots like that compared to the pitter patter of Josh Kulabau.
Yeah. Moving on, we got Edmund Shahbazyan coming in as the favorite at minus 340 against Gerald. GM3, Meerschaert sitting at plus 250. 10-year age gap in this one in favor of Edmund Shahbazyan. Shahbazyan coming off the knockout win in round 1 against AJ Dobson. But, he's been through it. He's had a long UFC career for a guy who's 26 and really just trying to turn everything around since he came into the UFC. Very good run, 5 wins in a row, or 4 wins, I guess, 1 on the Contender Series. And then 2 and 4 in his next 6 fights. GM3 been around for a long time. The guy's got over 50 fights. You already know this guy wants to get into the ground and drag you into deep waters. Try to find that submission. So this one's pretty straight up. Edmund's early or dangerous early, and GM3 is going to try to survive that and take over later because Shahbazyan's had those cardio issues. Which one do you think is going to prevail?
Oh man. Predicting a GM3 fight is so hard because it's like right when you think he's about ready to hang it up and he's going to go in there, get his paycheck and his last loss, he pulls out a win. He's coming off of a win over Brian Barberina, got the rear naked choke in the second round, had to, deal with the striking to get the fight to the ground, and he did. The split decision against Andre Petroski, there's a case that he won that fight because Andre just completely gassed and was tired, and GM3 was looking good on the feet later in that fight too. You lose to Joe Pyfer. It's not really a sweat off your back. I mean, grapplers are supposed to lose to Joe Pyfer. But Bruno Silva fight was interesting because he showed that his hands, he's got a little bit of power in his hands left. He knocks him down, ends up getting a late submission just due to being able to drop him with the hands. Fighting Edmund Shahbazyan, though, like if he stays around on the feet with him too long, I just think it's a matter of time before he starts eating too many big shots to recover from. Like even if Edmund doesn't knock him out right away or in the first round, I think eating those kind of shots is just going to zap the energy. of GM3. I think Edmund's strong enough to keep this fight on the feet and deal with the takedown attempts from Meerschaert. Man, I love GM3. I've loved betting on him in the past. He's pulled off some incredible upsets. I just think it's about his time. I mean, he's an older guy, so many fights, so much damage. And if you do get caught with Edmund on the feet, Edmund has a ton of power and he's very technical and he'll throw some nasty kicks as well. A lot of his losses, Anthony Hernandez, grappler, yeah, but has better wrestling than GM3. Imavov mixes it in, just a better, quicker striker than Edmund. Jack Hermanson, better wrestling than GM3. Derek Brunson, better wrestling than GM3. So I think Edmund should get this thing done. I'm not interested in playing him at minus 340. I think he's just got to keep it on the feet and good things will happen here.
Yeah, there's no chance I'm touching Shahbazyan at minus 340 because, lack of cardio, lack of a ground game. Yes, he's going to be dangerous early. He's probably going to try to get him out of there early, but I could also see for some reason, Shahbazyan's had these cardio issues throughout his career. Like maybe he just tries to play it safe, just like point fight from the jump. And if he does that, you might be able to save your gas tank, but maybe you let GM3 get more comfortable in there. So it's a toss up to me. Like Shahbazyan live for a KO one, but after that, I guess you could just lie bet it after round one because I don't think if GM3 gets knocked out, it's probably round one. Like that's when he's most vulnerable. And then he starts to settle into it. Then he starts to get his takedowns, and then that's when he's on your back and he's looking for those chokes. So I'll take fucking Jared Meerschaert for the pick, just because I don't think Shahbazyan, like, who's he knocking out? He's in his last couple knockouts. It's AJ Dobson who's been cut, and Dolce Lungiambula who's been cut. I think GM3 is good enough to hang on the feet and not get knocked out by Edmund early, and then I think he takes over. Edmund's not a great grappler. GM3 is a really good grappler who's dangerous on the ground. All it takes is one takedown, and it could be wraps. So I'll take GM3. And we move on to another vet versus up-and-comer. It's not Jesus Aguilar. I didn't check the slides this week, boys. But, yeah, that's not Jesus Aguilar. That's going to be Michael Morales. Jesus Aguilar's not making the turnaround, and he didn't get a bunch of tattoos, especially a neck tattoo, and he's not fighting Neil Magny.
And he's half a 6 foot.
Yeah, Michael Morales coming in at minus 670 against Neil Magny. 12-year age advantage for Michael Morales. Neil Magny plus 430, man. Does he have one little trick left in the book to pull off a big upset?
The line makers don't think so. They said, "Oh, you beat Mike Malott? Congrats! Here you go, minus 670 on Morales here."
Yeah.
But I mean, Morales is different than Mike Malott. Morales has gone to these 3-round fights in the UFC before. He's a guy whose cardio seems pretty good. I don't think Neil Magny's going to hit him with anything to really zap the cardio. I think if Neil wants to use his game plan that he always has against these guys, and it's to get double underhooks, put him against the cage, and wear on him. I think that's kind of Michael Morales' world too. I think that's where he's pretty good in that situation. And I think he's a lot stronger than Magny. On the feet, I think Magny's going to be eating some big shots, big leg kicks, which we've seen him struggle with before against guys like Ian Gary. So yeah, this one's simple to me. I just don't think Magny has the finishing ability at this point in his career to beat a guy like Michael Morales, who's that well-rounded. Like that's the thing. Like Mike Malott had the fight in the bag. He just got completely exhausted. I think Morales is way more calculated. He conserves energy a hell of a lot better. And, fight IQ is a little bit better too. I don't know, man. This is exactly why he's minus 670 after Neil Magny just pulled off an insane upset. I don't think he does it twice in a row.
I don't think so either. But Neil Magny's one of those guys. He's just going to stick around because he's tough to KO.
Oh yeah.
And he's only been KO'd a couple times in his career. I think maybe 2 for how many 40 fights. That's pretty crazy. Impressive. I mean, he's a big dude too. I mean, he's 6'3", 80-inch reach. And really he just wins fights nowadays by holding you up against the cage. So that's his path to victory here is probably to just try to tire out Michael Morales. But Morales is a guy that really depends on like his physicality. Like he's a strong dude, big dude, really strong jab, solid low kicks. You know, I think he's got Neil Magny outgunned in this one, but the line is just absolutely insane,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not even worth touching Michael Morales. I don't even know what the props are going to look like, but you're going to have to choose between KO or decision. Maybe a sub because Neil Magny's been subbed a couple times, but I don't know that Morales has that in his bag. We'll see. But you're gonna have to be choosing on some stuff that you're almost just guessing. You know, maybe you got a good read. I don't really have a good read on this one. Morales is the pick, but not much else to say on that one.
Morales decision.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but I don't know. Now we move to the Ultimate Fighter finale fights. Ryan Loder, the big man Ryan, coming in as the dog against Robert Valentin, sitting at minus 164. Have you been watching the Ultimate Fighter this year?
I scroll through to the very end of the fights.
Yeah, I usually throw it on if I'm just sitting at my desk.
Yeah.
And I've watched both these guys' fights, and Valentin, they didn't last very long. They're two first-round finishes, if I'm remembering correctly. And then Loder got a first-round finish by sub and win by decision. So should be a fun fight, honestly. I think Robert Valentin is definitely the guy the UFC would like to have win, just considering he's a lot more marketable as far as his fight style goes. Loder is pretty much just a wrestler, but this guy, he is a strong wrestler and he can get takedowns, and he has shown. I mean, he's not a fish out of water on the feet, but he's just a guy that knows his capabilities. Like he's just going to kick from the outside and try to level change once you break in on the inside. So, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, it's hard to gauge. First, Robert Valentin is like the evil Yuri Prohaska. Like he's got like the real like dark magic type vibe to him. If you watch some of the show and some of the interviews and stuff, like he's an interesting cat, and he's all about violence. I like that about him here. I think if Ryan Loder can't really implement the wrestling and he gets caught on the feet with him, he's going to be in danger of getting clipped with something big. Like this guy does hit hard. Valentin, he's got some big kicks. Somewhat well rounded too. He's got more experience in fighting, but if you can just stay away from the big knockout shots, I think Ryan Loder probably starts to have a lot more success as this fight gets deeper. Valentin, a lot of first round finishes on the show, gets a couple as well. And when fights get later on, that's when he tends to start to break a little bit. We've seen him submitted in round threes before. I just don't know. The thing about these fights that's hard to gauge is like we've never really seen Ryan Loder against a higher level striker. Is Robert Valentin at that level to where he can put some big shots together to knock him out? Like there's so many unknowns in these road to UFC fights, the Ultimate Fighter, all of that, to where I don't usually bet on him. But if you're looking at violence in this spot, I think you side with Robert Valentin. If you want a guy who's going to grind it out, you side with the underdog and Ryan Loder. I don't really know where to fall on this one. I'm going to go with the favorite. I like his style more. I'm not confident in this pick whatsoever. But if anybody's getting a finish here, I do think it's Robert Valentin.
Yeah, Valentin's a big dude, man. He used to fight at 205. And I remember his first matchup. He was going up against a welterweight that just got on the show and was like, "Hey, I'm not really going to cut weight," because he wanted to be on the show, and he just hit him once with that elbow, and it was wraps. He's a good striker, man. He's a good striker who's dangerous on the ground as well with the submissions, and I think that'll be enough to get a win against Ryan Loder. Loder's tough, and I could see him getting some takedowns here, but I mean these guys, they train together. I mean, not together, but I mean they lived in the same house,
Yeah.
so they know exactly what they're bringing. And I think Valentin knows what's going on with Loder. Loder knows what's going on with Valentin, and I think one guy knows one guy is a lot more dangerous, and I think that's Valentin knows he's a lot more dangerous. So I'm gonna go with Valentin.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Ryan Loder getting into like the desperation takedown groove in this fight to where he might get stuffed a few times, but on the third one he might get his neck snatched or he might eat a knee. Because like if you watch Valentin fight, this guy is pure violence and he's explosive as hell too. Like it's not really easy either to time takedowns on him because he's gonna be hitting you and making you pay if you miss. or even if you just hold on to the leg, this guy's going to be hitting you upside the head with elbows and just making it as violent as possible. So I'll take the more violent fighter as well.
One thing I noticed too when I was watching is like Valentin pretty much took over the coaching of the team. Like Alexa Grasso is not the coach by the end, like towards the end of the season. Like it was Robert Valentin.
He's a passionate dude.
And Diego Lopez. Like that, Alexa Grasso was just there. Like she wasn't doing shit. So yeah, I like the mindset too.
I mean, wait till you see this guy in the octagon when he gets announced, and just think like though, like, okay, is Alexa Grasso really able to tell somebody like this what to do and like how to, like, he's just a alpha male type of dude, you know?
Oh, we're bringing out the alpha male stuff. Here we go.
The evil Yuri Prohaska.
All right, let's move on to some more women's MMA. We got Angie Hill coming in at minus 118. Come back on Tabitha Ricci is minus 108. I did not say come back. If you get that. Okay. So Tabitha Ricci is 10 years younger than Angie Hill, but it looks like Angie Hill is picking up the pace in her career. 4-1 in her last 5. She's cashed for us a couple times. I love me some Angie Hill. But honestly, I look at this one. It's minus 500 to go over 2.5 rounds. So this fight's going to a decision. And Tabitha Ricci, she be getting decisions. And you know why she'd be getting them decisions. And I look on the other side with Angie Hill. She's 0-4 in the UFC when it comes down to a split decision. So even if I bet Angie Hill, the fight goes to a decision, she ain't going to get the nod because they just look at Tabitha Ricci and they're like, yep, 10-9. 10-9. Give her the round. So I want to take Angie Hill here, man, because I like the momentum. I think Tabitha Ricci struggles at range. I don't think she has the footwork to get on the inside because she needs to, because she's a lot smaller. I don't think her wrestling is that great. So I want to bet Angie. And I'm going to take Angie Hill for the pick. But it goes to decision, and I think I'm going to get screwed. So I don't know what to do. What do you think?
Yeah, I think she's due for a loss if you look at the, the kind of patterns in her record. Like, that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day. But she's almost 40 years old, and it doesn't mean as much in women's MMA that it does like the lightweight division and for the men's divisions. But Tabitha is a girl who's in such good shape that she'll be able to match the pace, whatever pace Angie wants to go at. Tabitha's striking is getting better, and it's very technical. I think she'll be able to hang in that department as well. And, Angela Hill just came off her first submission win in the UFC. Not happening to Tabitha Ricci. Tabitha Ricci is going to be the better grappler when the fight hits the mat. It's a close fight. It's lined pretty damn good, man. I don't even know. Tisha Pennington, that fight with Tabitha Ricci, I was there live. I had Tisha Pennington in that spot, and the judges just seemed to freaking love Tabitha Ricci. Outside of the Loopy fight, I guess, I thought Loopy won that fight, and it was pretty clear. It was a split. And the judges, there's judges giving it to Tabitha Ricci, man. They love her. So it makes it tough because this fight is going to hit the cards. Both girls are durable. Both girls aren't exactly the biggest finishers in the world. A lot of times in MMA in these close fights, man, you get an even money and you got a 40-year-old and a 30-year-old. I'm probably going to take the younger fighter, the one who is in phenomenal shape and can kind of match her in all departments. I think Angie's striking slicker and she'll mix in more stuff. But I think Tabitha will be right in her face throwing back. So it makes it interesting. I'm going to take Tabitha Ricci for the pick. I'm not super confident in this one whatsoever because Angie's kind of been a moneymaker for me. Like, I had a massive one against Luana Pinejo on her. It was my biggest fight of that whole entire card. That puts a good taste in my mouth. I bet Mackenzie Dern against her. I bet Angie against Emily Ducote because I've never thought Ducote was a great fighter. So it's hard to go against her, but I do think Tabitha is just going to look a little bit better than judges here.
I'm sure she will, but it's probably not for what she's doing in the cage. I'm going to take Angie Hill. I mean, I think she's the better fighter.
Dinner bet?
Yeah. You get some get back here. You get it. You're
doubling down.
The judges will help you out. Honestly, I think Angie Hill wins this fight, but I just don't really trust the judges to make that decision. So Angie Hill's the pick. We'll see if I get there on a bet, but it just sucks, man. Women's MMA.
What do you think happened in the Mackenzie Dern fight that she just got outstruck? Like, that's the one thing that holds me back from Angie in striking matchups like this. Like against a girl who can kind of match her volume and striking a little bit. Like Mackenzie Dern was able to just piece her up.
She got clipped early.
Yeah.
She got knocked down with that. Was it like a knee or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. She got clipped early, first round, and then taken down. I think she nearly got submitted in the first round or something like that. But yeah, no, I think that just screwed her. But I don't think Tabitha has that in her bag. And
definitely not the power.
I think, at range, Angie's going to have the better footwork, the longer jab. And then even if she gets on the inside, I think Angie has a good clinch game, knees up the middle, just, Muay Thai clinch, knee to the body type of stuff. And I think her wrestling has really improved. So I don't know, man. Angie Hill's the pick, but judges. Brings us to the main event. We got Jared Cannonier and Kyle Borralho. Free Spirit. Kyle Borralho coming in at minus 210, taking on Tequila Gorilla, coming in at plus 162. 40 years of age for Jared Cannonier, coming off the arguable, or questionable, I should say, stoppage from Jason Herzog against Nasruddin Imavov. Quick turnaround, honestly. Pretty quick. What was that, like 2 months ago?
Yeah, it was June 8th, Louisville.
Yeah, months ago. Obviously he wasn't out, but he definitely got rocked. So quick turnaround. Very questionable as to why this is. To me, for the Jared Cannonier side, it's probably because he wants to get back in there. He doesn't have a lot of time to waste, and he wants to get back on the winning track. And if you're the UFC, you're like, okay, sure. You want to get back in there soon? We'll give you one of these up-and-coming guys who's way down in the rankings compared to what he's been fighting. And it's an opportunity for Borralho, and Borralho is the favorite here. So I'm really trying to figure out how Borralho is the favorite here. Like this big of a favorite. I could maybe see minus 130, minus 140. He's a bigger favorite, and he's growing. I'm struggling with it. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. Minus 210 is crazy. I think at plus 162, like that's a great shot on Jared Cannonier, a guy who's been fighting at the top of the division for a while now. I mean, Kaio has been winning and he's looked good, but he's not fighting anybody at the level of Jared Cannonier. Cannonier beat Marvin Vettori, landed 241 significant strikes. If Jared lands 241 in this fight, Kaio's screwed. Like Kaio is going to get eaten alive. But before that, he landed 141 on Sean Strickland and won the fight by split decision. Sean Strickland was just holding the belt in this division 6 months ago. Like it's not like Sean Strickland's a guy in the lower.
100% recency bias. Like I don't know what the fuck I'm missing.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody. Yeah, he just knocked out Paul Craig, but everybody knocks out Paul Craig at this point because everybody knows the blueprint. And Jared shouldn't have been stopped by Imavov, and he was up 2-1 on 2 of the judges' scorecards before that. And then before that, he had the best performance of his life. Like we sat here breaking down the fight against Imavov, and we're like, Cannonier's 40 years old, but he looks like he's the best shape he's ever been, and he's just coming off the best performance. And now all of a sudden, like, he's an underdog to Borralho, whose best win is Paul Craig. This is wild to me. I don't know what I'm missing. Honestly,
Yeah.
like I know Borralho's good, but he hasn't really fought anybody that great, and he hasn't really been finishing that many fights. So
he hasn't been touched either. Like touch, like Jared has the ability to do on the feet, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know.
Here's my thing too with Jared is, yeah, he's 40 years old. Most guys at 40 years old in the UFC are, they've made some good cash. They've been fighting a while, and they're getting a lot of money per fight. It was just like a few years ago, he was talking that he needs fights because he's broke. Like Jared's still fighting for something at 40 years old. He's not fighting just to fight out his contract. And this guy is so close to a title shot too. Like a win over Imavov in that situation with everything in this division, like puts you right in the mix. And then he loses the fight, early stoppage, was winning the fight. So it's unfortunate. Like I think he's doing everything he can, turn around fast to get another win, just to inch himself closer for one more shot. Now, the thing that I look at on Cannonier's side, he's got some great wins over guys like I just mentioned, but his losses are against Imavov, obviously, but Israel Adesanya, who is the champion, Robert Whittaker, who might be top 3 ever, top 5 ever at 185, Dominic Reyes, a guy who beat John Jones, and that was right in that that era right there. Jan Blachowicz, former champion, Glover Teixeira, former champion. Like, this guy's is only losing to former champions and guys that are fighting for titles. Like, Caio could get there, but at this point, I think Caio is going to need some kind of setback to really advance his career, to really bite down, get really good with the striking. I know he is now, but a loss for Caio here would be a good learning experience, in my opinion. A loss for Cannonier here is kind of the end of the road for his title chances. So, back against the wall, this is Jared, fighting for a hell of a lot more than Caio, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm missing, and I guess I got to dive into this one and really try to find it, because I'm just questioning the line. Because I think Borralho's solid on the feet, but he's not a high volume guy, and his takedowns are pretty solid. His ground game is good, but on the feet, I think Cannonier has good enough pressure to put him on his back foot, and he's got a really nice jab. And he's dangerous, man. He can knock you out. Borralho, I don't think he's gonna knock out Borralho, but Borralho has this massive head, and he's a fighting nerds guy, which everybody is on the fighting nerds train, and maybe they just see that and they're like, yeah, I'll take him. But I'm really struggling to see why Borralho should be over a minus 200 favorite here. So I guess Jared Cannonier is the pick for now, but definitely one I want to look into a little bit more. Just do the due diligence because, geez, man, I don't know.
Dude, like, I'm struggling like with the level of competition jump too.
Yeah, I mean,
Paul Craig, not a striker. Abus Magomedov, kind of a quitter. Couldn't finish him,
and he lost a round to him. Olashaychek, it was competitive in the first round, and then was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna need takedowns, takes him down, and then submits him because Olashaychek has no ground game. And then Murdov's
losing to GM3.
Murdov ain't very good. I mean, he just got cut. Petrosian was a nice win, but Petrosian always going to struggle with grapplers.
Petrosian was only 6-1 too at that point.
Yeah, very green. Omar Gadzhiev was an absolute fraud. Got cut. Yep. I think a fight after that, and then Jesse Murray on the contender series. Like, I don't know, man. Wild. But Cannonier's the pick for now.
I like it.
And that'll wrap up the show. UFC Vegas 96. Appreciate you for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Once again, if you want the bets, jump in the Homo Fight Picks Premium membership. That link is down in the description to join. You'll get all of our bets sent to you instantly through the Dub Club app, through email, through Telegram, and through the Discord, whichever one you prefer. You can have them all or just one of them. It's up to you. But we're cooking in there. We got a bunch of people in there, and it's good stuff. Other than that, got anything for the viewers?
Yeah, bad UFC card because of a bad few bets last week. But other than that, the last 2 months, we've been absolutely killing it. So still staying hot coming into this card.
Don't forget, we got Contender Series, PFL, and UFC this weekend. So another stacked week. You can follow us on Home of Picks on Instagram, at HeyJabPicks on the medias. For me, where can I find you?
All social medias at the Parlay MMA.
Till next time, the double leg. Signing out.